But this I know with all my heart, His wounds have paid my ransom.
I'm not a seminary-trained preacher. I've never taken any classes in speech communications except for the one that I did in college 700 billion years ago. But I do tell stories. I tell stories, and my kids will tell you that my stories are usually short and are usually not true. I used to tell them that the sun was launched from Jacksonville, and it would fly across the sky and land in Albuquerque. I used to tell them that the reason why pictures and old television shows and are all in black and white is because Thomas Edison hadn't invented colors yet. And I could prove it by showing him old photographs and old TV shows. I told Nicholas when he was little if he stuck his finger in his belly button too far, it would kill him. Unfortunately, his older brother overheard that, and I think he was a sophomore in high school before he realized that wasn't true. And I wish I was kidding. I wish I was telling a joke. I'm not telling a joke. But that's what I do. I can tell stories, and I've got stories. Now, in my Bible, that first verse that she read, where Paul says, notice what large letters I use as I write these closing words. They're in all caps in my Bible. So I thought, wow. Look at that. All caps. When you see all caps, do you even read that text? It's obnoxious, right? You see that someone's yelling at you. I can't stand it when somebody types in all caps. I don't want to read the text. I don't want to read the post. I don't want to read the Facebook status, whatever it is, because all caps is very obnoxious. And my favorite is when somebody actually posts in all caps, stop posting obnoxious stuff, and then puts an angry emoji or something. Not that I think that every time someone texts in all caps they're being rude. Sometimes they're just trying to emphasize something. Sometimes it's the best way to demonstrate frustration or something you really believe in, or anger or surprise. The last text that I read that came to me before, as I was writing this, I've gotten one since then, came from my brother Dave, who lives in California. And it reads, Marcus Williams just gave the whole asterisk dad burn game away. If you watched the Saints Minnesota game, you know what I'm talking about. He didn't actually type dad burn. In truth, there might have been a few third commandment violations in progress at that point. And then since the game was on a Sunday, some fourth commandment violations, right? Yeah, I belong to a family of heathens between September and February. I can't help it. But so I did some very basic research on the history of using all caps as a method for literary shouting. And for my pitiful efforts, I came up with nothing conclusive. However, there might be a few of us in here that, like me, are from the elder nerd class. In other words, we invented nerds. My generation, we remember that even back in the days of news groups and bulletin boards, if you're under 30, you're going to have to Google this. Back when you were using CompuServe or Prodigy, who remembers CompuServe and Prodigy? This even predates AOL. That's how far along we're going. Even then, people were using all caps to demonstrate when they were yelling about something. So I know that it's been at least 20 years. But the things that I just mentioned, like I said, if you're under the age of me, you're probably going to have to Google that. They belong in the dustbin of history with punch cards and floppy disks and dot matrix printers. Again, under 30, just Google it. But we see that Paul was using a form of all caps even back in the first century. See what large letters I use as I write to you with my own hand. I don't know why he had to add my own hand. Leanne tells me that he often, while he was in prison or because his eyesight might have been going bad, had sometimes dictated some of his letters. So I guess this one was important for him to write in all caps. So he's saying, read this very carefully because it's super important enough for me to yell it, even though I can't be there to yell at you. So I will yell at you with my hand. If you were here last week, Leanne equated Galatians with you idiots because they were saying that you have to do this thing, you have to perform this behavior, you have to have this mark on you before you could be a Christian. Verse 12, he says, those who are trying to force you to be circumcised want to look good to others. They don't want to be persecuted for teaching that the cross of Christ alone can save. So he's saying that these people want an easy way to look good in front of others because they lack the courage to live by a faith that shares Christ's suffering and Christ's death. All their talk about the law is hot air. Here in 21st century America, he uses that word persecuted, right? We don't have much of a perception of true religious persecution. Jackbooted thugs aren't going to come into this building and threaten our freedom or threaten our lives because we're worshiping Christ. This was a real thing that would happen where Paul was, but we most certainly do practice a version of our religion as a production, as something showy, just like the Galatians. And what I mean is, and I see this a lot at work, I see this a lot amongst my friends, sometimes the line between our faith and some man-made social constructs become blurry. Like political beliefs, maybe some social justice issues. I know people who say illegal aliens are sinners because they're not here legally. I hear people who think God speaks in Old English because King James Version is the only Bible you should ever read, right? Even if you're from Germany or Japan. Fit in my box, believe what I believe, or you're not a Christian. This is what the Galatians were doing. Because everybody know that Jesus sounded like Hamlet when he spoke, right? Yeah. Okay. So this is how you have to speak. This is how you have to think. This is the little box you have to fit in. These are the customs that you must follow to fit into our little Christian box. This is what the Galatians were doing. This is why Paul was so torqued. We can't say that a guy. Or we do say, actually, I hear this, this guy can't be a Christian. He's an insert your political party here. Or a capitalist can't be a Christian. Or a communist can't be a Christian. Or a lady can't be a preacher because she's a woman. People actually say that. This is a thing, even today. That man shouldn't be up here preaching the word because I'm married to a woman that was once divorced. That's quite clearly adultery according to Christ. I shouldn't be up here. Right? This person isn't saved because of the cross of Jesus. He isn't saved because he doesn't believe or behave like I do. We do this. We do this all the time. Sometimes we're not aware that we're doing it, but we do it. Not as overtly as the purposefully exaggerated examples I just gave, but we do this. And the Galatians were doing it. You have to join the super religious guy club. You have to be circumcised. You have to bear the mark. In verse 13, Paul goes on to say, and even those who advocate circumcision don't keep the whole law themselves. They only want you to be circumcised so that they can boast about it and claim you as their disciples. I'm going to pull this out just a second. It's going to make a little noise. Because I feel like I'm stuck in front of this thing. I can't move. Yeah, hypocrites. We like to call out hypocrites. Hypocrite calling outing is fun. But these guys really were hypocrites, and Paul was really torqued about it. And I love to point out hypocrisy, like when I'm yelling at all those atheist football players not standing during the anthem from the comfort of my couch. Or, the game's about to start. What? They're doing the anthem? I'm going to go make some nachos. Right? Oh, it's the invocation? Well, I got to go to the bathroom. Hey, look at those disrespectful guys kneeling. We do this in front of people who see us. The Galatians were doing this, and Paul heard about it, and he was pretty mad. So here's a really, really good story for you. This is a true story. This happened to your worship leader, because for a long, long time, I wasn't a very good Christian. And when I did decide to follow God, I was an even worse Christian. In fact, In my mind, I was the Christian star quarterback, first team All-American Christian, and I could point out where you were deficient in your faith, and I could tell you the books and the chapters and the verses that you had to read to be a better Christian, and I knew what words to say, what prayers to pray, what songs to play. I knew all that stuff. But God had to bring me down a little bit and rearrange my thinking. He brought me down so much that I do things now that I'm scared to death to do, which is talk in front of people. I'm more comfortable when my voice is moving up and down, and I'm hiding behind a guitar. That's very, very comfortable for me. But before I came here at the Bridge, I would serve once or twice a month at the missional church in Biloxi, the Seashore Mission, as a worship leader. And most of you are familiar with El Pueblo. This congregation is largely consisted of addicts and migrants and indigents and the mentally ill, alcoholics, prostitutes. If you're really, really lucky, you only belong to one or two of those categories. And a desperate group of people, but in the worship, the joy was real. The blessing was real because we were in this really warm place, spiritually warm place, despite all that chaos and coldness outside, right? Well, I was finishing up one service, and this gentleman presses his palm into my hand and thanks me. He's tearful. He was blessed. It wasn't sad, it was joyful tears. And he left a little bit of money in my hand when he pulled away. It wasn't a little bit of money. It was a $20 bill. In a Peanuts cartoon, when Charlie Brown is alarmed, you see a thought balloon with an exclamation mark. I mean, that's the best way I could say I felt. It was a physical feeling of weight. I've been doing this at the time for about 15 years in one form or another. Before I was a worship leader, I was in a rock band, a Christian rock band, as a front man, and I've been doing this since about 2002, when Nick was baby, and I've seen and I've experienced quite a lot up on the stage, singing songs about Christ from a church, fellowship hall. I've even sung it from the Bud Light stage at the Crawfish Festival. It doesn't bother me. We've sung praise and worship at breweries. Wherever God sends us, we've done. I've seen it all. But this gift, this thing that happened to me, I'm holding this $20 bill, and my mouth had to have been wide open, and I wish someone was recording this. I would love to see what my face looked like. This was so incongruent with my reality. I do okay, I'm an IT manager for a defense contractor. I do okay. And here's this guy who placed in my hand what should have been his next meal. How could I accept this? I volunteered for this gig to pour myself into you because you are less fortunate than I am. I'm meeting my charity quota, I'm the one giving, offering, and sacrificing. I'm the one who has to give back, not you. This is my opportunity to feel good about myself, not yours. Why would you taint that by making yourself poorer on my account? You can't selflessly scar yourself for me. I have to demonstratively scar myself for you. My thoughts in all caps were, stop stealing my thunder. Pastor Judy, you guys know Judy Longo, standing near me, directing the word. The service was over, so she's directing everybody to where lunch is being served, and I just kind of glanced at her, and she was standing by her. She has a table like this, and her offering basket was on it. So I said, Pastor Judy, the man standing across from me put this money in my hand, and I dropped the money into the plate, and she snatched that money out and put it back in my hand. Again, if someone was recording, the look on my face, and she goes, he already gave. She had that look on her face. Like when you were seventh grade algebra, you did the problem right, but you got the wrong answer anyway. She had that look on her face that reminded me of a math teacher. This is a gift to you, and again, I'm all a fog, so words just came out, and I said, "Well, what do I do with it?" She said, "Buy yourself some lunch. Put some gas in your truck." Shrugged her shoulders. And that was difficult for me. I was humiliated. Not think of humiliation as a bad thing in this sense. I was brought low. I was humbled. I mean, even now the feeling comes back, and it's very visceral to me. It's a difficult, convincing, heart-wrenching, and beautiful realization that after doing this for so long, I had gotten my very first lesson at the time 47 years old of Christ-like grace. Most of the members of this congregation are stricken with every form of impoverishment that you can imagine. Their rest comes from the opportunity to get a little food and a little fuel and dry socks. That's their blessings. We call out so many things as blessings that sometimes are just, luck. For them, I'm blessed because I've gone half the day without putting a needle in my arm. I'm blessed because Judy had some shoes for my second grader. I'm blessed because I'm going to get to eat lunch. No one knows the sweet gift of a little relief better than they do. Now, I don't know the specific struggles of the gentleman who put the $20 bill in my hand. For all I know, he could be okay financially, but I don't think that's very likely the safe bet. What I do know is that a man who might not have enough to eat willingly gave me some of his food. Or a man who didn't have enough fuel to get home, put gas in my truck. This guy may have been causing himself some harm to ensure that I was blessed by him. Never experienced that kind of unselfishness. And I would have deflected it and dishonored it had it not been for Pastor Judy's, I call it precision wisdom. Boy, she was on that. And until that moment, I was pretty ignorant of my condition. Kind of a clueless camel trying to squeeze his face through a needle eye, right? That's what we all are. The poorest person in this room is wealthier than 80% of the entire globe. Yeah, that's right. We're the rich people trying to squeeze through the eye of a needle. Yeah, but I thought I was incapable of receiving grace because I foolishly believed that I didn't need it. You idiot. Total Galatian right here. Well, since that day, a couple of conversations with Judy Longo and Cliff Burris later, I've realized that I'm going to try and spend a lot less time trying to be like or look like Jesus and just try to spend a little more time being with him. I got too much to learn. My reality was crucified that day by Christ revealing to me in what I would have once considered one of the proverbial least of these. Well, church, I'm one of the least of these. And I will boast that, if that is boasting. It's verse 14, and what we just sang. As for me, may I never boast about anything except the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ. Because of that cross, my interest in this world has been crucified. The world's interest in me has also died. It doesn't matter whether we've been circumcised or not. What counts is whether we've been transformed into a new creation. And may God's peace and mercy be upon all who live by this principle, because they are the new people of God. Last week, Leanne was talking about how God separated the Hebrew slaves from the oppressive world around them and called them his people. If you were an Egyptian and you wanted to be one of his people, God's like, too bad. Sorry, this is just Hebrews. And I'm going to take them. It's from this people that I'm going to eventually come to you through. Not you guys. You guys bad, these guys good. I'm going to plague you guys. But now, because of Christ, we are given this opportunity to embrace the gospel and be transformed into a new creation. We get to say, God, I want to be one of your people. And he gets to say, yeah, come on. Paul taught the Galatians, we're not required to ritualistically scar ourselves to be God's child. I don't have to believe that it's my job to perform charity for you because that's how I get into heaven. It's really not. Christ, Jesus says even sinners, love people. Even heathens love people. Even people that will one day be in hell love people. So I read the Message translation because I love the Message, and it puts those verses like this. It says, "For my part, I'm going to boast about nothing but the cross of our Master Jesus Christ. Because of that cross, I've been crucified in relation to the world, set free from the stifling atmosphere of pleasing others and fitting into the little patterns that they dictate." We call it peer pressure. Can't you see what the central issue is? It's not what you and I do, submit to circumcision, reject circumcision. It doesn't matter. It's what God is doing, and he's creating something totally new, a free life. And all who walk by this standard are the true Israel of God, his chosen people. Peace and mercy on them. Verse 17, he says, "From now on, don't let anyone trouble me with these things, for I bear on my body the scars that show I belong to Jesus." He says, you want to see scars? I got scars. Sure, a ritual was performed on me when I was 8 days old. I don't remember it. There's a scar, but I don't use it to bear my testament to Jesus Christ. But since you're so interested in scars, here's a rope burn around my neck. Here's where a broken rib punctured me when I was beaten in prison. Here are the cuts and scrapes on my wrists where the shackles are. Does that impress you? All of these things were brought upon me because I dared to preach the gospel in a world that otherwise had no use for me. So now I'm going to type with all caps. Now notice what large handwritings I'm going to use as I write this. Don't trouble me with talk about scars, and let's get down to the serious living of this faith. Now, I can't speak for you guys. I can only speak for me. But I am certain that I spend more than enough time as a Galatian. I do it today. I don't want to be a Galatian, but I'm a Galatian. I'm an idiot, as Leanne would say. If you're listening, Leanne, I'm an idiot. She's like, oh, amen. Not getting down to the serious living of my faith. It's real easy. It's real easy to be distracted by our rituals and fitting into patterns and performing to the satisfaction of the world and not my God. It's real easy for me to say, look what an awesome Christian I am, leading worship for homeless people like an expert Christian. Sean, want to come over and watch the game on Sunday? Oh, no, I'm leading worship at the shelter again. Because I do that a lot. A lot of Sundays I'm serving people. I can't say, nah, I got something. I gotta show them my scar that I took for Jesus, Well, Jesus had to move a poor man to give a rich man $20 for lunch because the poor man wanted nothing more than to share in the blessings that he felt for me. So you know how I found to be the most effective way to be de-Galatianized? Leon, if you're listening, you can use that word. I give you permission. I'm not going to. De-Galatianized? Allow God, who's wiser than wise, He loves you with a love that we can't even define with human words. Allow him to humiliate you gently. Ask him to explain to you in only way God can, because he's the one who knows you better than anyone else, how there is no master or slave, no male or female, no Jew or Greek, just as people, all of us, scarred and unscarred. I saw a poor man giving a rich man money. God saw his person demonstrate unconditional love to his other person. And that's how he wants to be. My throat hurts a little. I've been dealing this with the whole week. I felt compelled to not call somebody and say, I can't make it today, and it's not because I wanted to show my scar. It's because that this was really, really important to me that I shared this story today. And so I hope something I said blessed you this morning. I referenced Leanne's teaching last week. If you didn't hear it, it's recorded. All of our sermons are recorded on Facebook, on our Facebook page, and I would implore you, if you weren't here or you haven't heard or you just want to hear it again, to hear what she preached as she introduced us to Galatians. Thank you, Father, for having your servant Paul help us understand that it is our belief in your Son and not our rituals that make us saved. Amen.
All my heart, His wounds have paid my ransom.